Chad Hasty Show, News Talk, KFYO. Thank you for tuning in today. Joining us on the phones, our next guest. Always a pleasure to visit with our next guest, the RNC Deputy Press Secretary, Mike Joyce, here on the Chad Hasty Show. Mike, good morning. How are you today?
Hey, good morning. Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to have you on. There's so much to cover. I guess we'll start with last week and the impeachment hearings that were held last week. The Democrats were expecting bombshells, explosive testimony, and I guess they were hoping to sway the public over to their side. And Mike, I'm not sure that happened the way they wanted it to.
No, even worse. This is backfiring on them now. I mean, you're seeing all of these polls coming out saying that independent voters in swing states all over the country are starting to oppose impeachment more and more the longer this goes on. And I think it's the most telling that a Michigan Democrat named Brenda Lawrence just came out and voiced her own opposition to this impeachment inquiry now. And she's in a D+30 district up in Michigan. And coincidentally, her district is right next to Rashida Tlaib's district on the congressional map. So this is a Democrat stronghold where she is. She has absolutely no reason to move against Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff in opposition to impeachment, but she came out against it. And, I think you're going to see more House Democrats all over the country come out and start voicing their opposition to this, because I think they're slowly realizing that this is absolutely backfiring on them. And, Adam Schiff, the reason why Nancy Pelosi wanted Adam Schiff to be the first committee, the House Intelligence Committee, to lead the first round of hearings is because she thought Adam Schiff would be her star special prosecutor for this. Now we're going to go to the House Judiciary after Thanksgiving next week, and we're going to have Jerry Nadler, who's one of the most inept politicians on the planet. So if you thought the Schiff show was bad last week, just wait until Jerry Nadler is running the kangaroo court next week, because we've all seen Jerry Nadler in the past. And, I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to relive the glory days and bring up the Russia collusion hoax, even though this entire impeachment inquiry is about the July 25th phone call with the Ukrainian president.
Mike, I agree with you. I think we will see some of these moderate Democrats, or these Democrats who are in swing states, who will come out and try to, slow down, if not turn around this impeachment hearing. In your opinion, can they do that? Can Speaker Pelosi do that, or is she too far down the road and she's got to move forward? No matter what, whether it puts the House at risk or not, she's got to move forward, because, in my opinion, she's been a pretty weak Speaker of the House. She's given in to the Ocasio-Cortezes of Congress that want to see this thing move forward.
Yeah, you kind of stole my talking points there, Chad. Because,
Sorry about that.
Going back to the original, that's okay. I'm thankful for it because it's a perfect segue to me. So, I think all you have to do is go back and look at the beginning of this. The Socialist Squad, AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, they were the ones forcing Nancy Pelosi and forcing her hand into moving forward with this impeachment inquiry. And we've seen it now. They're driving the message here in Washington, and they're driving the direction of the Democrat Party, unfortunately for them, off a far left cliff to irrelevancy. But, I think all you have to do is understand that she's trying to keep control of her caucus now, and they own impeachment now. They already moved forward with the inquiry. They had that sham vote on the resolution that allows the kangaroo court to basically just stonewall Republicans every step of the way and not give President Trump any due process in this. But they own this now. Maybe you do see some people flip, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be kind of like with the Kavanaugh vote. You saw Chuck Schumer force a lot of vulnerable Democrat senators to move forward with opposing Justice Kavanaugh. And I think you're going to see the same thing here, where Nancy Pelosi is going to tell her base and her caucus, if you want money next year, if you want campaign money from me, you're going to move forward with this impeachment vote, because we have to do this now. There's no turning back. And I don't think there is any turning back. I think it's pretty obvious to the American people, and especially the Texans, that there's going to be a partisan party line vote. Democrats are going to vote to impeach the president. You will see some defections, and you'll see bipartisan opposition to it, but they'll have the votes to do it in the House. And then, of course, he'll go to the Senate and get shut down up there. So we know the end game here, and I think Democrats are very quickly panicking, because they're starting to realize that the entire country is turning on them for trying to basically just undo the results of the 2016 election, because that's what this is about. And this impeachment inquiry is going to be their call to action going into the 2020 election, because this is all about trying to beat President Trump, and they know that they can't beat him on policy, and they're not going to beat him at the ballot box in 2020 either.
Yeah, and I think if it's a bipartisan opposition to the impeachment articles. I think that speaks very loudly. Let me ask you this, and I don't know if we've even broached this topic with you here on this program. We've spent a lot of time obviously talking about President Trump's re-election campaign. Let's say the Democrats do move forward, serve up these articles of impeachment. Obviously, they're going to go down in the Senate. How does that affect the House going into 2020? As far as the Republicans taking back the House, does it make it does it make it that easier maybe to take back the House? And what would you say the odds are that Republicans can put the House in play?
Yeah, I think it absolutely sets the stage for Republicans to retake the House in 2020 because, we talk a lot about these vulnerable Democrats. Who are these people? These are people who ran as moderate Democrats who promised to work across the aisle in a bipartisan fashion. They ran on trying to get things like health care done. And they came out and said, originally that they don't support impeachment or they would go silent and go missing. But these are 31 Democrats in districts that President Trump carried in 2016. These are people who overwhelmingly support the president. So when they go back home, they're facing a lot of anger and frustration from their constituents saying, you promised you would go and work in a bipartisan fashion, but you're working in a partisan manner to impeach the president and try to undo the result of the 2016 election in the middle of an election year. So I think that absolutely sets the stage. If you look at our candidates all over the country, we have a great bench of Republican candidates that are running in the House all over the country. And I think it absolutely gets in play because of Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff thinking that they can dupe the American people into trying to remove the president from office. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to go back to their districts and explain to their voters and their constituents why they decided to side with Nancy Pelosi when they promised them something completely different. And also, look at these folks. These are folks like Elisa Slotkin and Haley Stevens in Michigan. These are people who even promised to oppose Nancy Pelosi's speakership, only to turn around and vote for her to confirm her as the next Speaker of the House. And they don't have any accomplishments they can point to because Nancy Pelosi is incapable of doing anything like passing the USMCA trade deal, lowering prescription drug prices for our seniors, tackling the opioid crisis. I think you saw the news report this morning. President Trump donated his salary to help tackle the opioid crisis this morning. So the president's doing everything in his power to get things done. But unfortunately, until Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats stop their sham impeachment inquiry in the House, I don't think you're going to see a lot get done in Congress this year.
Mike, it was a disaster for the Democrats, I think, last week on the impeachment hearings. On the flip side, I think we're continuing to see a disaster on the debate stage as well among the Democrats. And even Michael Bloomberg agrees with that. And he's jumped in, and Deval Patrick, both of them have jumped into the Democrat race. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think the most telling thing about that debate was my favorite line was when Joe Biden said that the only black female senator in the United States Senate right now has endorsed him. And I don't think Kamala Harris has endorsed Joe Biden. I think it's quite the contrary. But it really just underscores where they're at right now. I mean, the fact that you have folks like Deval Patrick jumping in and Michael Bloomberg jumping in, it's because Democrats are panicking right now because they have such a weak field. And with all the so-called frontrunners, they're such weak candidates. They're starting to freak out because they're starting to realize they don't have a candidate that can stand up to President Trump and, more importantly, President Trump's campaign, because the Trump campaign and the RNC and Republicans up and down the ballot all over this country are very quickly building up a juggernaut that's not going to be matched by Democrats, whether it's our ground game, our fundraising, our data operation, anything you look at, we're going to have the advantage and the leg up over Democrats around the country. So I think they're right to be concerned about their candidates because they're pushing a very far-left radical agenda, and it doesn't matter if it's Michael Bloomberg or Pete Buttigieg or Elizabeth Warren or whoever. We're going to be happy, whoever their nominee is, because they're going to be on record supporting some far-left policies that the American people right now clearly do not want in such a partisan time with what's happening in the House right now.
Do you get worried, and does the RNC get worried, not necessarily about a Bloomberg candidacy, but about Bloomberg money? There's a story in the Texas Tribune today that Bloomberg is throwing $3 million into Texas as he's rolling out his presidential bid. I mean, he's got some money that he can spend, and we saw that in Virginia, and we saw it in some other places recently. Do you guys get worried about that?
Not at all, because we can match the Democrats dollar for dollar anywhere, any place in the country. I mean, all you have to do is look at the fundraising figures that the Trump campaign and the RNC continue to float. We had a record-breaking off-cycle October we raised $25.3 million. That's the biggest off-cycle October in the party's history. That's a testament to President Trump and the chairwoman, Ronna McDaniel. They continue to go out and raise incredible amounts of money, and we're going to be able to match the Democrats. And it doesn't matter if they have a Michael Bloomberg or, a Tom Steyer or whoever. Democrats also have some issues. They're all signing pledges saying that they're not going to take money from fossil fuel. You have people like Elizabeth Warren saying that if she becomes the nominee, the DNC and the Elizabeth Warren campaign would not be accepting large donations from corporations. That makes you very weak, and it makes you non-competitive when we're going to be able to have the resources to put these large field teams in place, which we already have in over 19 states around the country. And they're simply not going to have that at the end of the day because of what we're doing and what the Trump campaign is doing and what Republicans up and down the ballot are doing. I think you're going to see a very significant advantage on the ground with fundraising, with data, and everything else that matters in this very pivotal campaign election year.
Very good. Mike Joyce, RNC Deputy Press Secretary, always a pleasure to visit with you. You and your family have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll visit with you as the election continues.
Thanks, Chad. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your listeners, too. Take care.
Thank you. That's Mike Joyce with the RNC here on the Chad Hasty Show. News Talk, KFYO.